Two people have died recently. One of them was Richard Adams, the author of Watership Down. Watership Down was formative for me in a variety of ways. I still remember seeing the movie when I was very, very young, probably too young to see a movie like that. The book, which I read much later, was one of the most compelling stories I ever read. And of course, it was all about rabbits, which John Hurt, the British actor, also died recently. And I'm not sure if a word like serendipity should be applied to something as profound as death, because the word serendipity strikes me as whimsical, and of course we want to take this seriously. But then again, both men were artists after a fashion, so we can say, I suppose, that it's serendipity that both men passed on in a near time frame. John Hurt provided the voice for one of the primary rabbits in the animated adaptation of Watership Down, which I also only found out recently. John Hurt. I have to admit, this is going to be mostly about John Hurt. I can't properly pay homage to Richard Adams. I'm not familiar with the man beyond his beyond Watership Down. That was what he did that truly affected me, and arguably the course of my life. But then I could say the same of John Hurt. He was one of those faces that I just saw pass in and out of my awareness in the course of perusing popular culture. He was never really as noticeable to me as, say, Jack Nicholson or Robert De Niro or any of the actors whose names I just instantly recognize and have thoughts on. He was just one of those faces who occasionally appeared and was a welcome presence, always. His wizened expression, he was a wonderful person to watch. He was one of those actors who grew into himself, who aged like wine, just seemed to become exactly who he was meant to be. Age fit him like a glove. Not one of those actors who soured or tried to cling to their youth. No, this was a man who became more and more a wizard by all appearances. It wasn't until he became the War Doctor, until he entered into the canon of Doctor Who, that I truly became invested in his career, in a manner of speaking. You might have noticed some of my videos are devoted just to the War Doctor, because it has frustrated me no end that he has lacked the validation which I feel was owed to him. I've seen quotes from the man when he learned that he was going to play one of the doctors from Doctor Who. I suppose I should be wearing my Doctor Who hat, but I'll skip it for now. He was so excited, apparently. He said, "I'm going to really be the doctor, right?" He was excited. He became the Doctor without a number. And that counts. We still say that Peter Capaldi is the 12th Doctor, which of course implies that there are only 12. That John Hurt therefore did not play the Doctor. Not really. And that infuriated me. It still does. It's very difficult for me to accept. I put forth various theories on how this could be rectified, various plans, which I've begged just someone, anyone, to support. My latest one was that, well, perhaps we could skip over the 13th Doctor. Maybe that's the Valeyard, the evil Doctor that was supposed to come about around the end of the Doctor's lives, and that could be Doctor 13, and then we could skip over him, therefore, and by some means, and the next real Doctor could be the 14th Doctor, and then the numbers would sort of add up. But of course, that's not going to happen. John Hurt, his most notable role to me is the one which has elicited in me the most emotion of, I think, any role I've ever followed in any fandom at all. I've never been so passionate. I mean, maybe it's negative emotion, but it is still emotion that this has inspired in me. It's never going to happen. He's never going to count, and that does lessen the impact of the role he played. People do think less of the War Doctor because the War Doctor is not a doctor. He's the War Doctor. He doesn't have a number of his own. His entire character arc was dedicated to legitimizing him as one of the doctors. But it wasn't enough. People still argue about whether or not he counts. I shouldn't go into all that. I've been over it again and again. You've heard me. If you've followed my videos, this might be the first that you've heard of it, but I just cared very much, and it's kind of ruined Doctor Who for me. I can't enjoy it anymore because this stabs at the central premise of the show, which I enjoy so much, that there's this person who can become different people, and every person he becomes counts like a chapter in a book. It's odd that I should care about this even more than I care about the man himself, who has died, whose life has come to an end. But then again, I suppose that's the nature of all actors. They matter to us, the public at large, by the legacy of the body of work they leave behind. It's the roles they play that matter to us, that speak to us, that have an impact on us. We don't know the actors. We don't really mourn them personally unless we knew them. Maybe some people do. Maybe some people do really care about the people, and they should. I envy them that. But for me, I can only really mourn the presence of John Hurt. That wizened face, those sad, knowing eyes, that grin, that voice, that wonderful voice. These are the ways that I knew him. And it culminated with the War Doctor. And I guess I'll go on telling everyone I meet that he did play Doctor Who, that there are just that many of them. That's all I can do, and I'd like to thank him for making me care about him that much. Because I guess when you get right down to it, that's what an actor really aspires to make the audience care. May he and Richard Adams rest in peace.